Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who the refs pick to win the Super Bowl, considering they advanced both of the divisional round teams, and they'll both be in the game, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like the refs, they're going to side with the Eagles if I had to guess. Like, the NFL script writers, like, Philly having, like, a storybook season,
For
I feel
sure.
like that just makes too much sense.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that the Chiefs are I think they're going to give it to the Chiefs. I think Dell wants a brand new dynasty in, well, the most boring fucking place in the United States. But, you know.
Welcome back to Marv on Air. Today is Monday, January 30th, 2022. The NFL Divisional Round has just wrapped up. We've got a lot to cover today. We are going to dive into Philly and San Fran's game, as well as Kansas City and the Bengals. We're going to talk a little bit about Purdy and the injury report that's just come out about him. Just recapping those games. We're going to touch heavily on the refs as well. Other than that, I think we're going to stick on that today, and we can get into more future stuff tomorrow. Obviously, I'm here. We've got the two classics on the couch, Redbone and James. How are we doing, boys?
I'm doing pretty good.
Just peachy.
Just peachy. Alex, how's it going back there in the hut?
Pretty good. I don't know if my mic is working, but
Yeah, it's working.
it is. It's just really low, so I'll turn that up. But
All right.
yeah,
Well,
that's it.
producer Mini Marv's on it, so we're happy to see that. All right, so let's just go ahead and get started with Philadelphia and San Francisco. Started the day on Sunday. I think it was a 2 o'clock kickoff, kind of a weird time. And it was a very one-sided affair, obviously. The Eagles completely wiped the floor with, pretty much who was the DN that killed Purdy? I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
I'm blanking as well.
Yeah, so it was pretty much a lot of him right at the beginning. And that was about 6, 7, 8 minutes right into the game, and they lost their starting quarterback. Niners did. And here's where I'm going to go with that. I don't think that if Purdy was in that game, the Niners even had a chance. I saw some film breakdown. The defense for the Niners that's been heralded all year as just top-tier defense looked very weak, very lackluster, and the Eagles capitalized on every chance they could get. Now, here's a part of that. The Eagles being on the offensive side of the ball so much because of the lack of offense from the Niners resulted in, I think, a lot more strain on the Niners and a lot harder play calling from the defensive coordinators. It's all a ripple effect, obviously, but when you look at the actual film of, they brought the nickel and the two corners over to the strong receiver side, that opened up the weak side for the Eagles. They just utilized it, and then as soon as the Niners changed and they were like, all right, we're going to bring the nickel back over to the weak side, they just started running QB draws, and they used the running back as a lead blocker, a blocker, and Kelce was as a puller there. So I don't think it really mattered that much, and I just didn't realize, are the Eagles that dominant, or they looked really good. I thought they were kind of skimming through.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like just watching that game, and a lot of this storyline's going to be about, Brock Purdy was hurt. The Niners were playing with a 8th string quarterback who's 38 years old or something crazy.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the Niners were supposed to have this incredible defense. Well,
Yep.
this incredible defense gave up 31 points, and they gave up 270 yards almost. The fourth down conversion for the Eagles, they were 3 for 3. It's just they only forced 4 punts. I mean, the Eagles kind of had their way with them, and it didn't seem like they were throwing that much at them. They were just simply just running it right at them, kind of, it felt like, and did what they've been doing all year.
It almost felt like the Eagles knew where the Niners were missing pieces. They knew this is what we need to do to make a push at them. They weren't doing things that weren't going to derive good results, essentially, if that makes sense.
I mean, Philly was just dominant.
Yeah, 100% on both sides of the ball. I mean, I don't know how much you can really say on the. I mean, they were on the defensive side of the ball, but
Yeah.
Not really like the Niners had a whole lot going on there. Do you think this is one of the easiest roads to the Super Bowl on the NFC side in history, potentially? I mean, the way, or just the Eagles that good? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know about history. That's,
Pretty bold.
I'm not too well versed on my NFC,
Me
playoff
neither.
road history.
Yeah, me neither.
But I think the Eagles are legit. Like,
yeah,
they haven't really they haven't had to go through the Bengals or the Bills, but they played the Niners, who were down. Yeah, it's, I guess, been pretty easy, but they've
Giants
also
and
done
Niners.
it convincingly.
Yeah, they've looked good in all aspects of the game so far, so I can't really say. I mean, it's like when I ranked them after the wild card round, I was like, well, you can't really rank first seeds outside the top 3 because,
Yeah.
like, they just haven't even played yet, and that's kind of the same circumstances here. Like, we haven't really seen them be challenged. Like, I don't know. It's just, how do you interpret that? It's up to you.
I think all you can really say about the Eagles is that they did put up 31 on San Fran.
Yeah, who is apparently one of the best defenses
Supposedly,
in the league.
I thought the best, but
I personally thought so as well. It's just where my picks
the
were.
Chiefs' defense is not that stout.
No.
So, I mean, Philly could easily score 35 against them.
Do you think it's a shootout? Do you think the Eagles are able to stop the Chiefs?
I mean, I don't think you can ever really stop the Chiefs. You can kind of maybe hope that there's a pick or a fumble or they get off script slightly. But I'd be shocked if either team is under, like, 24 points.
Yeah, I don't know what the over-under is, but I guarantee they hit the over here. That might be the lock.
Over-under set at 49.5 right now.
Interesting. I'm surprised it's not like 57.
Yeah, I would
think
have expected, like, 53 to 54.
Yeah. Maybe the books know something we don't, I swear.
Maybe they think Philly's only favored by 1.5.
Really?
Yeah, so
Well, I think it's going to be close. I think this is one of the
Yeah.
most boring Super Bowls we've had in a while.
Boring?
Like, looking at the teams going in, like, it's just going to be like, this is what everyone expected, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no, like, big storyline here. It's just like, yep, makes sense.
Yeah.
We knew
Like the
this
Bengals
week
last
10.
year. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, man, that's tough. But Kansas City does look good. And obviously, they look good against the Bengals. Now, really what everyone's talking about in that game is the refs. Okay, this is where we get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode because that's all anyone's talking about is the refs. And it was decided by refs. Here's the thing. Here's my thing with that. The refs, I don't think they made any calls for the Chiefs that were wrong, if that makes sense. Like, there was never a holding penalty that's like, ooh, that's really ticky-tacky holding. You know, I think it more came from lack of calls for the Bengals. Like, when you watch the punt return,
Yeah, but, like,
and they just shoved the Bengals player
maybe
to the
there
ground,
wasn't a call, but there were plenty of no calls that were, like,
That's what I'm saying. They didn't give any calls to the Bengals.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was what killed them ultimately. Like, they couldn't catch a break because, I mean, the Niners gave up, 9 or 10 penalties in the last half of just, like, stupid penalties. Like, they got every single call called against them, and you can make the argument that it was evident in that game as well. I don't think it mattered as much. But in the Bengals game, like, there was plays they would show on the replay. Burrow just gets pushed over way after he throws it. You know, against Patty, that's going to be a penalty.
Yeah.
And they didn't get those kinds of calls. So I don't think a lot of people were acting like them calling the unnecessary roughness on that last play was, like, egregious. You shouldn't let the refs, control the game in that way. That was a penalty. I don't really care.
Yeah.
You can't avoid that. He had 2 feet completely out of bounds. He was clearly running out of bounds. He pushed him. That's a penalty. Tough for the Bengals. But it was the rest of the game where they were not getting calls when they should have been that I think it was more of like, was really one-sided. I don't know.
Yeah, the penalties were the Bengals had 9 and the Chiefs had 4. And I feel like it was more like people were wanting there to be more penalties called on KC than less on Cincy. I don't think people were like, oh, Cincy was, they were throwing the flag at anything. It's just, it felt like KC was just kind of
getting
away with the little stuff and even some big stuff like on that punt return. But
yeah, that was big time. And then what did we think about the third down situation? I know James probably doesn't know. That was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, you saw it, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
extra down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still don't know how exactly that happened.
So
But
the refs were asked about it, and they came out and they said, "This is what happened. They had that play earlier, and then there was like some sort of they needed to add time to the play clock, and then when they paused the game, they're like, hey, we need to add the play clock, and we're gonna start the ball will start on my whistle." Which when I watch it back, I don't think that's what he said, which is why it's questionable. And when they like blew the play clock in and they started the game clock as well, and then they ran the play and the game clock shouldn't have been going, so they're like, oh, we got to go back and play this without the game clock rolling at the snap. Now, when you watch the tape back, the back judge, is it the back judge who's in the corner, or is the back judge straight in the middle? Whoever's
either
in the
or.
far right corner, like
Yep.
way, like 20, 30 yards back.
Way back there.
Yeah, he takes like 15 steps right before the snap. And granted, it's extremely loud in Burrowhead, so like I know they couldn't hear him. Like I'm not debating that. But he starts, he's like, and then they snap it and he just stops. And I think, now I don't know how ridiculous this is, but I think he stopped to wait to see if they were going to get the first down. And if they got it, he wasn't going to say shit.
Yeah.
No one knew. No one knew. That's why everyone was so confused. So I think he was waiting. They didn't get it, and he was like, all right, now we actually messed up. We can go give him another down. It didn't
Now we
matter
try
in the
again.
end.
Yeah.
But I think that was what was so questionable to me when they played it back, and he like just stopped. It's like, shouldn't you be running into the... I thought that's what they were supposed to do. Get in the middle of the play.
Yeah, I'm not all I know is that it was weird. I don't know the ins and outs of that, time management stuff with officiating. I just know that it was really odd, and it's just one of those, it adds on to people's theories of like, oh, the refs rigged this in favor of KC. I think
Yeah.
it's just the cherry on top.
I think the storyline this year has been just so, like, all the evidence is just so strong this year in comparison to many other years, which is, I don't know, a coincidence? Is it proof? Why would you would feel like they would almost back? I don't know. That's a tough spot. Like,
Yeah,
you can't
it's
really
just-
back off if it's the playoffs and that's what you're actually doing,
I think it's just interesting. Like a report came out, or maybe not a report, but somebody said, and I don't know how factual this was. I saw it on Twitter, so it's probably 100% factual. But they said that the NFL is registered as like a
Entertainment business.
industry, like
Yep.
the WWE.
Yeah.
That's a little.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a little dicey. Like, why is that?
Are you kidding? Why do you think they have 2.5 hours of pregame? It's entertainment. Like they have 24/7
Yeah, but
coverage of
The
football.
WWE is rigged.
So
No.
Redden and I,
The
okay,
WWE is entertainment. Don't
But
get
it's
me
rigged.
wrong. Don't get me wrong. They're not fighting to the death. Obviously, it's entertainment. But so is sports.
So are you?
They're not playing the sport for the glory. They're playing it for money and entertainment.
the players.
They're not playing. The majority of players, I guarantee you, they're not playing for the glory. They're playing it because they're good and they're making money.
Yeah,
from
I guess, but not for the entertainment side. They're not like WWE where they're like,
But
oh, I'm
but
gonna go be a.
that's what they're getting paid from.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like-
So do you think the WWE is rigged or no?
Are you fucking kidding? Of course.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Just make sure we're all on the same page there.
But it is at its core entertainment. That's why like the WNBA makes less because they don't bring in as many dollars because they don't entertain as many people.
Yeah, that's just straight up how it is.
So yeah,
Interesting.
it is, in my opinion, considered entertainment. That's
See,
what it is.
Now here's my thing with that. I agree with you 100%. Now, is the entertainment the pregame, postgame, and the sport, is it different? Because to me, that's like, for me and Redden, we pay really close attention and all that. So to us, it might be a little different, but you aren't as completely delved in. So do you think it is like it's just all strictly done for entertainment? They might not rig the games, but they kind of like fix them to get the biggest market teams on the TV so more people will watch. I've heard a lot of that.
So do you think the NFL is kind of telling the refs to rig the game, or do you think just outside sources are trying to influence the refs? You
That's
think the
really-
NFL is?
Well, how much can money do?
That's
Well,
exactly. it's a
the
big
the
part of
case
it.
for refs is the same for politicians. If you give them a lot of money, they won't take side deals and whatnot.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're saying about making full-time refs. Yeah, that's where I was trying to go.
How much
next.
does a ref get paid?
They're part-time, so and they almost all have full-time like actual jobs.
Are they
like
getting paid
lawyer.
$400,000?
I don't know what the number is.
I doubt it's that.
It's
much.
not that much, but it is definitely quite a bit.
Oh, I would
Yeah.
be taking deals constantly.
See, now here's the thing.
That's
though,
why
is
you're
To
not a
run
ref.
up and down a field looking like a zebra in slacks and dress shoes for some reason, I would be taking $1 million deals, rigging games. I don't care.
Interesting. So you think it's coming from outside sources, not from the head of the NFL?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I'm just saying I would be taking deals if I was getting paid $150,000 while these guys are playing for 3 years and making millions.
Yeah, but
Interesting.
what happens if you try to take it? Do you have to like talk to the other refs and be like, "Hey, this is going on"?
I just
You're gonna get
Well,
I just
fucked
look,
really
I just look
quick.
the other way when
I think
when there's a holding call.
I think it's
I
so
think it's individual.
So you're not making shitty calls. You're just not calling
yes.
calls that should be
Yes,
called.
or maybe
Because if you're if you call bad
ticky-tacky
calls,
exactly.
The thing in the NFL is, I think, I don't know. This calls into the whole integrity is in question when you start this conversation. But I think the margin for error is so small. A few missed calls here and there really will add up. That's like I'm on your side here. They miss like 3 holding calls. Well, now it's first down instead of third. So I think there's something there.
yeah.
According to CBS Sports, the average NFL referee makes over $200,000.
Fuck yeah.
So it's a good sum, but you could definitely be bribed. I would think with that much.
Absolutely. With
I'd be
with how much
shocked
money
if
is
they're getting bribed by anyone other than like the NFL.
that's
I
their
could see
paycheck.
Goodell
I
calling
think it's
in and
Goodell
like,
being more than
hey,
others.
our ratings
I'm,
would be way
I'm
higher.
just saying I don't have an opinion on which side it could be. I'm just trying to say how it could work and why it would work.
I think.
But like, if the big guy at the top is calling down, he's like, "Hey, just give him another Super Bowl shot. Just give."
Oh,
give
yeah, I
Mahomes
bet,
another
I bet the
Super
refs
Bowl,
are like
man.
briefed at the beginning of every game. If it is rigged,
yeah.
it's Goodell saying,
Yeah.
This is what the outcome needs to be for the storyline, so ratings are such and such for this game. You
Yeah.
know, it's not. I don't think it's like the mob's calling up these refs and they're like, hey,
We need Philly to get into the Super Bowl this year.
we need Philly to lose but cover. So
Yeah. Oh, okay.
otherwise, we know where you live. That's not what's going
You
on.
think Vegas is controlling?
That's
No.
something that a lot of
Vegas
people
is
think.
controlling-
I think Vegas
the
is in
NFL.
on it with Goodell, but I'd be shocked if Goodell isn't somehow.
I'm just.
I don't think Vegas controls it, but I wonder if maybe it's the other way, where Goodell is hinting them at what might be happening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it's a lot of people say, oh, now that sports gambling's been introduced, it's just a whole different game, which it kind of is when you look a little bit, but I don't think it's like Vegas is like, all right, I'm making the call. We got a guy
No.
who's about to win $75 million out of our pocket. We got to, they can't cover.
Nobody down at like Caesars is like, hey, we need Josh Allen to throw 2.5 touchdowns this game. That's not what's going on.
Exactly.
I think it's just probably like Goodell being like, hey, this is kind of what we have planned out here. Plan accordingly.
Yeah.
You know?
I think there's that end. So there's three things we could really look at here. Goodell is manufacturing it to an extent where it's like, hey, we want the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl this year. We're going to allow this, and this. This is going to set. And if it's that, it's a huge ass chess game. It's 60 chess. Or it is outside contamination, which I think is much less likely because good teams, you can't. If you're like the Jags, who are like 5 years ago horrible,
You couldn't call enough.
calls to fix it.
You could not call enough calls to save San Francisco.
Exactly.
You
That's what I'm
couldn't.
saying.
What was it, like 7-21 by the third quarter?
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
blowout.
they were getting annihilated.
So
there's no way you save that.
That's
But
what I'm saying is like I think there's only so much that way can do. The third thing I wonder is if, and I've seen this a lot, if refs are just inclined to like, well, if the Chiefs get through, it's not so much coming from anyone, it's just that the refs have bias, right? So you look at like robot refs in AAA, you've got those robot umpires now, they're calling balls and strikes, they're going to have no bias. When you look at you could say the NBA refs with LeBron. We'll get into that in a second. But refs are like, oh, I grew up loving the Patriots. You know, they're gonna have some level of bias in a close game at the end. I don't know.
Yeah, there was a thing when I want to say his name was Tim Donaghy.
Okay.
Yeah, Tim Donaghy. He was an NBA official who was, if you see him on like Netflix or something, I believe there's like a 30 for 30 or something on the guy.
I think I've heard of this.
But essentially, he had a guy who was kind of in the mob, and they'd pool their money together, and they'd be like, okay, we need the Sixers to win by 4 or something like that. And then Tim Donaghy would kind of work to make that happen. They then caught on to it somehow, and then like the FBI, I think, or SEC or someone investigated him. And he was like, no, I wasn't fixing games. I just had insider information as to how these games would go.
Okay.
So he's just like, I know against... I mean, he's there at every single game on the court. He's like, you know, I know that so-and-so will be guarding this player tonight, and I know that he guards him really well or whatever, so I think you should take whatever player under 22 points.
Yep.
Something like that. That's what he tried to claim in court, but then what like the special prosecutor got him to admit was that since he did himself have money on the line, that maybe he consciously wasn't blowing the whistle and saying, you know, foul on you, but subconsciously, without even knowing he was doing it, maybe he let something slide here, or maybe he was, you know, there's a little contact and he was quick with the whistle, stuff like that.
100%.
So they got him to admit that, like, okay, even though I might not be intentionally doing it, just because of some conscious feelings, I couldn't have impacted the game one way or the other.
Yep.
Okay, I was about to say, if they made a case on that, that is complete fucking bullshit. But if he admitted to that, which I would never admit to, I'm an unbiased man. I'd be like a fucking news anchor out there.
Yeah.
No, if he admitted it, then yeah,
Admitting it was how he like got out of like a lifelong jail sentence.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
so he's took.
Well, they had him.
Okay.
They had him for gambling on the games.
Okay.
And
True,
in
yeah.
like
So
I don't know, coordination with like this mob boss guy, with the mob boss and calling him up and saying, "Hey, this is what needs to happen."
Yep.
So they had him for rigging the games. So admitting it was like his pleading the 4th or 5th, whatever it is. I don't know.
I gotcha.
Have you guys ever heard of the Hawkeye system in tennis?
What is that?
So I think they have like 12 or 16 cameras around the
Oh,
tennis
yes.
court.
Yes.
It's super interesting. So these cameras are all around the tennis court, and when a ball is, you know, on the line or, you know, it's iffy, they use these cameras and they basically make like a render of the tennis court, and then they take the speed of the ball, the trajectory, and everything, even like the humidity outside and how much it'll flatten
Squish.
out and squish, and then they'll just make the call based on that.
Huh.
And I was thinking I don't know how good AI gets, but there's plenty of footage of holds and what's that shit
Like
called?
DPI and OPI.
Pass interference.
All that, yes, pass
Yeah, I
interference.
got you.
There's plenty of face masking and all of that. Do you guys think that it would be possible, accurately, unbiasedly, to hook up like an AI system to something like that, where it's watching the field constantly for, you know, maybe a guy getting a hold?
Okay. Yeah, I know exactly.
I feel like that could work, but at the same time, maybe I just don't have a real good understanding of
So
what needs to be done.
here's exactly where I am with that.
It would be
NFL
better than reffing, though.
Well, that's where I think
I
I'm going to
think.
go. The NFL is a multi-billion-dollar industry. You can't tell me they don't have the money to do something like that. The amount of cameras that would need to be put in, the amount of, you know, AI, all that shit could definitely be done. Okay. There is something to be said, though. There's holding on every single play.
Yeah.
There's, you know, questionable calls every single play. Like things, the game would take 17 hours if they called it holding like every play.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more of, like, I don't know. Like that would be tough to make every single call because you get a lot of like Well, technically, yeah, there was holding on number 71 on the offensive line, but then also, he made contact at 5.1 yards, so that's what do they call that? Illegal touching outside of 5 yards so that's a redo of a down, and then that happens every single play, and it's like, okay, well, this game's going to take 6.5 hours. It will be perfect, but, I don't think it would be worth it.
That's a good point. I didn't consider that. I mean, yeah. I don't know how you get around that without changing the rule set and just have a purposely loose rule set.
Yeah, like
that would work around the AI rather than the AI working around the rule set.
Yep.
I think the best argument I've seen across all sports for like robotic referees or officials or umps or whatever is like it takes a human aspect out of the game in a sense. So like when you think about like I don't know if any of you guys played baseball, but when you think about pitching, like the professional pitchers, they can pick their spots, right?
Yep.
So they're pitching against, the batter, but they're in a sense, if they want to get a fastball down in the corner, maybe 2 pitches earlier, they're going to throw something here, so that way it appears to the umpire that, okay, this was closer to the strike zone than it was.
Yep.
So there's more of like a ball game to it when it's a human calling it. Or like Kobe, right? He read the officiating handbook to know, okay, when I have the ball here.
He would.
Have you heard this story?
I have not, but this sounds like
Kobe
something
read
Kobe
the officiating handbook, and he knew, like, okay, if I have the ball here at the high elbow, right, this official's going to be here, this one's going to be there. So I can put my hand on this guy's hip right here because it's a blind spot.
Oh, my God.
And this is, like, something that they practice now. It's, like, knowing the blind spots. Same thing with, like, the NFL, right?
Yep.
You played DB in high school, kind of, here and there, right?
Yep.
Like, you're taught, right, if you're DB and the ball's in the air and you're running with the guy, put your hand on his inside hip.
Right, really close to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's those little things that if you do it with robotics, you lose a part of the art of the game, which is
that's like how much can you get away with?
Yeah.
I think it's a very good point, actually, because that's a lot of it, and that's what they were talking about in the San Francisco game. It was, I think, right before the San Francisco player was just punching that guy in the arm. Did you see that?
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. I think it was right before that, and they were like, there's an element to it of like how much it was the punt. That's what it was when they went to block the punt and they hit his leg. Like there's a balance between pushing and like getting that edge that's like that. It's like in poker, like that 0.5% edge, and it's gonna give you the win versus 0.6, and now you're into penalty territory. So I think there is some of that too that it would take away from the game, and you might not notice it, but you would be like, wait, what's off?
Yeah, I don't know. To me, with sports, like you want a pitcher who can work the umpire a little bit, right?
Someone like
NBA
Kobe
is a little
who reads
different,
the book.
like, but it's just that kind of thing that adds an extra element to it.
Yeah.
And like, I guess it would change the sports world if we could just be like, well,
Perfect.
that game was perfectly officiated.
Yeah.
Can't blame the refs at all.
It wouldn't give us anything to talk about, that's for sure.
Yeah, it'd make this entire show obsolete.
Yeah. No, I like the question though, because that's interesting. Like when you look at like tennis, it's like it's perfect every time. Like there's no missing really a call. So, but that's I think a much more simple sport.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I was
ball
about
in
to
or
say.
out.
It's not like basketball or football or I guess baseball, like pitching and whatnot. But maybe like for simpler sports with less people, like maybe volleyball, bowling. How do you even score bowling? Because them
pins.
motherfuckers are,
The pins.
Yeah, well, they're rolling 300s every time.
Yeah, I guess it's when you don't bowl 300.
I feel like there's not officials in bowling.
No, there's
there?
not. It's just pins.
Yeah, you just
It maybe like golf, I guess. I don't know. Golf gets weird. Golf rules get weird because it's not
golf.
It's not
You
an
can
issue
never do
until
that
it
with
is.
AI.
No, it's not an issue till it is though.
Golf,
It's like
there's way too many different situations. I feel like
we saw one, or I saw one where it was like an 18th hole or 19th hole situation where they kept coming back to this hole for extra, cards, and then they hit it into the exact same spot. So the first ball went, put a divot in the sand trap, and then they removed the ball, and I don't know if they removed it, but the second ball like landed on the ball. So then they had to pull one to hit it, and then they were like, well, how can we recreate that same lie? Like there's just all this awkward to it.
I want to say, what's the name, Monday? Just yesterday, I think. Do you guys know who Patrick Reed is? Marv maybe.
I don't.
He's kind of golf scumbag. Like the dude's just an asshole. Everyone
Okay.
hates him. He's sued he went and joined the Saudi Arabian tour, the Live tour.
Yep.
Right? So everyone on the PGA hates him, and anyone who talks shit about him once he left or even when he was on the tour, he's just sued him.
Okay.
And he's like a complete douchebag. Like he had his lawyers deliver subpoenas for the lawsuit on Christmas Eve, intentionally,
no.
complete dirtbag stuff, right?
Jeez. Okay.
Well, he hit a ball, so they're playing at some beach place or whatever. It's nice out and there's palm trees.
Yep.
So he hit this ball, right? And there's 3 palm trees, and it's going far left, and it hits one of these palm trees, but it's a bushy palm tree, whatever it is.
Okay.
So the ball gets stuck in there.
All right.
Well, you can also see in the camera shot, there's 4 or 5 other golf balls in there.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon that a ball gets stuck in these trees for whatever reason.
Okay.
But there's 3 of them within about 10 yards of each other. So he's in the farthest tree back, but he says, even though they have it on camera, oh, there it is, it went into this tree. He was like, no, it actually went into the farthest up tree. So he gave himself 10 yards, and he was closer to the fairway and actually had a shot at the hole.
Yep.
That's an interesting thing where it'd be interesting if golf officials could look at it and be like, oh, no, it actually went in this tree.
Yeah.
You're back here.
That makes
but
sense.
instead, they just pretty much had to go off his word that it was in that tree, even though on TV you could tell.
Do you know what happened
wasn't.
after he hit the further up ball?
Nothing. He just got away with it.
How?
Because
ended
golf
with a different
doesn't
ball
have
than-
replays like that. They can't go back and look at it.
But didn't his group mates know that he ended with a different ball than he started, or no?
Well, it's they all play Pro V1s anyway, so it's
Oh, true.
they look
Okay.
the same. And
True.
there's in each tree there's 6 different balls. So
Oh.
if you're there in person, there was no way that they could have been able to tell.
Interesting. That is interesting. Well, I think AI could be helpful. I don't think it's the answer. We can talk about answers a little bit. I have a couple things that we could talk about. This goes in hand with the bribing thing that James was talking about. Full-time referees, I think, is mandatory. And this is I'll say my 2, and then you guys can kind of voice your opinions. Full-time referees needs to be a thing. And, in my opinion, not necessarily for improving calls, but there needs to be some sort of report or maybe even recommendations, where they say, okay, this ref's getting fined this much for this egregious of a call, which that's a whole nother level of, where's the black and white, gray, all this area is going to be issues. But the NBA has a 2-minute report, and I think they need to do that in the NFL, where they're like, all right, we made these calls were incorrect in the last 2 minutes or in the last 5 minutes or whatever. We acknowledge it, and it will at least cement some level of responsibility and hey, we messed up. We're sorry, fans. We're sorry, owners. It's our fault. They do that in the NBA, and I think even if they just do that, it will literally, I think, almost eliminate the rigged component. Instead,
I think that's an awful idea.
Really? Because now,
say next week it's the Super Bowl, right? And there's a ball thrown up, 0 seconds left on the clock. They throw a flag and give them another untimed down, right? And then they score on that and win the game, right? The NFL can't go on Twitter and be like, sorry about that last one, guys. We blew it.
I guess
the game would have been over, and the NFL just admitted that the wrong team won. You can't do that.
Well, I was going to say the rules are different for the NFL than the NBA, but that kind of thing could happen in the NBA too. A foul
Yeah,
that
which I
was
don't get.
clearly not a foul.
I feel like the refs, as much as we like to say it's rigged, I feel like for the most part they are trying to make the right call.
No, I agree. But
So
I'm
it's
saying if they make the wrong call and then they're like...
But admitting it, what does that add?
I
Besides
think
just publicly embarrassing them more.
Yeah.
Everyone's already hating on them.
Exactly. And
Now
I think
it's your own league's hating on you too.
I think it eliminates the question of whether... Because right now, they'll ask them, they'll Jedi mind trick the question, and then they'll just move on and nothing ever happens. I think people want to see, all right... They know they messed up. Right now, we're do they even know that they're wrong? They just don't even
they
answer
know they're
whenever
wrong.
any pressers.
I mean, yeah, but they definitely see the response to it.
Yeah.
It's not like they ref and then they go sit in a dark room until the next game. They know how people feel about it.
Yeah.
And I think having the NFL I don't even know, is the NBA doing this in the playoffs?
I
guess with the
assume.
NBA it's
I don't know
different
it well
because
enough.
there's not as many concrete plays,
Yeah.
There's no 4th down, unless there's a foul call on literally a half court shot, right, to end the game. It's not as big of a deal. But I feel with the NFL, I mean, we'd almost right away see the NFL having to admit, oh, yeah, the wrong team won. You know?
Yeah, because I guess the NFL is you're right. It's a lot more blocked into like first down, second out, this play.
There's like set
NBA is very
plays.
fluid. Like a lot of things can happen, and it would be like, well, you have to like time mark it. You can't say like this play.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
What's the difference between being a part-time ref and a full-time ref? What are you trying to say?
I'm saying that like they're gonna get more money, which if bribery is an issue, then it wouldn't be anymore.
But what makes them full-time that they're not doing right now?
So they pretty much, from what it sounds like, and if I'm wrong, if anyone's in the comments, let me know, or you guys let me know. It sounds like they just suit up and like ref, like that's all they do, right? Like they would with a full-time position, they would be able to do like film study and like practice and like be exposed to more like situations and that sort of thing where it's almost like practice for refs. And granted, they wouldn't be working 80-hour weeks, like there's just not that much you can do, but maybe they go and ref like more practices or more,
my understanding,
just getting more exposure to it.
My understanding, I could be wrong here, but I think that like in season, it's not like the refs are Sunday Night Football, they're reffing a game and then they're clocking in at the office at 9 a.m. I'm pretty sure that they like aren't allowed to work during the season. So they're part-time because they don't work 40 hours and they don't work like year-round or something like that.
Over the course of the year, they don't.
So it's more like a legal filing, to my understanding. It's not that they're not, like, during the season, refereeing, at least with the NFL, that is their job. That's, like, all they're doing. They do watch film and stuff like that. It's just that for, like, tax forms, they're not legally full-time, so they're part-time.
Interesting. That would change it then, because then you can't really do that all year. Like if they are watching film, if they are doing those extra things, I don't know if you could do that all off season.
You can't practice blowing a whistle and
Yeah, there's only so many. I mean, some of them are good at it when they have like the scrubs going on. They're that's all you hear in the broadcast. They're pretty good at it. I don't know if you can get much better than that, but that's a good question actually. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure during the NFL season, they're not like allowed to have like another job at the same time. I'm pretty sure they have to just do that. But then I think in the off season, so like the spring and early summer, then I believe they're allowed to like work another job doing something.
At a firm or work at a
but whatever. I'm pretty sure during the season that's all they're doing.
Interesting. Okay, that makes sense.
It's more a legal term than like where their time commitment actually is.
Yeah. Okay, I gotcha. I don't know if that's the case, but I roll with that. Last things I want to touch on really quick are post-game situations we had going on. The biggest ones were in San Francisco. Obviously, we talked about Purdy and his injury. It came out today per Adam Schefter. He suffered from a UCL tear, complete UCL tear, and he will have to take 6 months at least before he is good to go. I think they are planning on him being a part of off-season activities at the very end of the summer. We can talk a little bit about the San Francisco quarterback situation. We might do that Wednesday. But with him being out, George Kittle was asked how he felt about the loss, to the Eagles. And he basically said, quote, "How do I feel about losing the NFC Championship without a QB? Pretty shitty."
Yeah.
Unquote. How do we feel about that kind of emotion coming from a player like George Kittle, who's one of the higher level, tight ends in the league, and he's been playing at a high level like that for quite a while? Is that something that he should have probably held back on, or do we think he's like, you should have said that?
I think he can roll. I mean, kind of throws whatever that guy. What was his name? Josh Donaldson or something?
Like Josh Johnson or something.
Whatever. Well, I've never heard of the guy before, but it kind of throws him under the bus a little bit. But like at the same time, like I'm guessing, as long as the guy's not super egotistical, I'm guessing if you asked him, he'd be like, "Yeah, I wasn't exactly prepared for that situation."
He's a four-string QB.
He's a four-string QB in the NFC Championship game. Like I don't think that he had too much expectations out of himself.
I don't think he suited up on Sunday morning like, we might get in today.
Yeah, no,
we might be getting in.
I don't think hopefully he did prepare all week and stuff that he was going to get in, but like, no,
that was not probably.
Kittle was right. I mean,
yeah. Well, and then
fourth string.
Once they
got lucky, they had a good third string.
Yeah. Well, once they lost Johnson or Josh, whatever his name was, to a concussion, I believe, then they were toast. They had absolutely no threat of a passing game because Purdy could not throw. He had a completely torn UCL at that point. Their one throw, I mean, he threw twice, and they were both checked down, like screen passes. But their only other throw came from CMC, who was literally into a cornfield. That ball was to absolutely no one.
I wanted to see like an aerial view of that. Like,
I was
what
like,
was the nearest guy?
Yeah.
35 yards?
Like, was that only not intentional grounding because it was a reverse? Like, that was he out of the pocket? There was no one in the area, so that was pretty crazy.
Knows?
But yeah, I think it almost puts more like it shows Kittle has faith in Purdy for next year, and a lot of people will say he was just hating on his team, but I think he was almost like.
That'll be
with a quarterback, we had a good chance, but without a quarterback, it sucks because we just didn't have a chance.
The Niners QB situation going into next year will be great off-season topic.
Oh, for sure.
They got 3 dudes.
Jimmy G's free agent, Trey Lance broken foot, and Purdy torn UCL. So
it'll be interesting to see where all that goes.
That's going to be a developing situation for sure. I don't know where I would lean even with like a favorite to play. Because Purdy blew it up, but with a torn UCL.
Yeah. I don't know. We can talk about that in the offseason.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. And then our last main point here is the Bengals, Joseph Asai, basically gave the game to Kansas City. We could chat really quick about do you think if he wouldn't have gotten that penalty, they would have still won the game? He would have gone out at about the 41. Clock would have stopped with roughly, how much was left? Like 8 seconds?
It would have been 8. I think it was 8 seconds.
8 seconds from the 41. That makes it a 58-yarder. So what? They probably need 7 or 8 yards to get into.
And they were out of timeouts?
They were out of timeouts. I don't know. Do they? I think they still find a way.
You can't. Yeah, I mean, you can't put an entire game on like one penalty like that. I mean, I think there should have been a block in the back on the punt return anyways.
Yep.
I mean, the last like 30 seconds there of that game were just crazy, and one thing does get called, one thing doesn't. A lot of referee talk around those two calls or lack thereof.
100%.
But I mean, at the end of the day, Mahomes from the 41, they could have gotten another like 10 yards easy.
And even if they get like 4, that puts them at like 55 yards.
Yeah.
And Butker has the leg to be able, at least he's going to get it out of the end zone, so they're going to take that shot. And you give Kansas City a shot. And then you go into overtime. Well, Bengals didn't really have a whole lot going at the end of the game. I don't know. I still think Kansas City wins that game regardless.
It's not like that penalty cost them the game. Like, there was other opportunities and things that probably could have or should have gone their way.
2 minutes left, tied. Like, they had their opportunity to make a run at it, and they just didn't get it done for whatever reason. So
yeah, it's just easy to point the finger at that one thing because it was extremely late in the game and very blatant and obvious. Like, probably shouldn't have hit him 5 yards out of bounds.
Yeah, but probably shouldn't have done that, but that's what happened.
In the guy's interview, he was like, they asked him, they're like, did you know you were that far out of bounds? He's like, I had no idea. I was just in like playoff, like go get him mode. He's like, I'll have to watch the film and see if I was out of bounds by that much. So he didn't even really like in his head know. And I don't think you would in that situation.
Definitely
either.
not.
Like 10 seconds left on the clock. I feel like you're just, ears pinned back going to get the guy who's trying to score right now.
And I don't know if you guys have ever done this since like high school or if anyone watching this has, but it was a couple weeks ago we were throwing the ball around at the rec facility here, and someone threw it a little bit outside of my like where I can just run and catch this ball, right? So I take full sprint, like this is like head shaking where you can't really see very clearly what's going on. And I didn't catch it, and that almost put it into perspective for me. Like, when these dudes are on the field, like, if they're not running at 100%, yeah, they should catch it. But when you're going 100%, it's hard to have body control. It's hard to see exactly what's going on. And when Mahomes, his first foot was like, half of it was out of bounds. Second foot was completely out of bounds. Yeah, that's a penalty. But that happens that fast. And I don't know if Osai was able to, like, that's so fast, especially when you're already committed to hitting him anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming him, but his teammates did not seem to love the fact that he pushed him out of bounds.
Well, that was that one guy.
One guy, yeah.
The rest of them had his back.
That's where I want to talk about it because what does that mean for the Bengals locker room? Is their window closed mentality-wise and especially money-wise? I think, is Burrow up on his contract? Like, they're going to have
I
to
don't
start
think so.
paying dudes pretty soon.
I'm pretty sure they return pretty much. I don't think like any of their main receivers are on.
They got T and Tyler are their
I think
main
they
receivers.
all have another year left. I think.
Okay, so maybe the money aspect isn't, quite an issue, but
I'm pretty sure they have 1 year until they run into some trouble.
okay. Well, with 2 years running deep into the playoffs after not exactly great starts, I feel like that is a very strong mental battle, and they didn't quite get it done either time. Do you think that the frustration shown by the one player is, kind of universal around the league, or is that or around the team, or is that just kind of a standout? He just got a little overheated.
Yeah, I feel like that was just kind of like an outburst. I'm sure he's probably talked to Osai since then and been like, sorry about that, man. Like, whatever. Who knows? I guess I don't even know who the guy was. I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
But to me, it seems like the Bengals locker room as a whole is a pretty tight group.
Yep.
And if anything, they're going to rally around Osai instead of the guy who like tried to call him out in the tunnel or whatever.
For sure.
But I'm sure it was just an outburst. I mean, they got, 8 months to sort it out anyways. So.
Yeah, they got some time. James, what do we think about Bengals for next year? We thought the Bengals were going to be right back in the Super Bowl after the final game of the season last year. They ended up making it really close after a rough start. Could we see another season like that, or are you anticipating? Nah, Joe Burrow's going to be, he's back for his 4th year, I think, as a starter, and he'll have the locker room kind of mapped out. He'll have the off season ready to go. He'll have a good leadership, mentality, and they'll get out there right away, and they will make a deep run. Do you think they'll start slow, still make a deep run, start slow, bad run, or start fast and fizzle out?
Tough to say.
I mean, we're 9 months out right now, so it's not like you're going to be right or wrong, but just, from someone who's like really only probably seen the Joe Shiesty memes, what are we thinking?
I'm thinking next year they don't go to the mile.
Really? You think this was kind of the end of their window?
I think this is the end of the window, and not to say that they shit the bed, but like they've been at the doorstep.
Okay.
And I
mean, you can only knock for so long before you walk away.
Exactly. And they're not the Chiefs, right?
They are not the Chiefs.
They don't have Goodell.
Down there.
Goodell's not calling up the refs for the Bengals. They're in there for luck.
Interesting.
I think they're done.
Okay.
No, don't get me wrong. They're not like the Bears. Like,
yeah,
they're still gonna be
Still
competitive.
gonna be like 8-win team probably.
Exactly. They'll make it to the playoffs. They'll do good. But they're not getting to the NFC champ?
They're AFC championship.
They're not getting to that next year.
Okay, interesting. Well, I'm excited for 2 weeks from now when we're able to do a full recap of the season. Once the Super Bowl is over, we're going to tier rank all the teams on how they did based on their expectations. We'll probably give expectations for this year at the end of the summer, I guess. It doesn't really make sense to do it at the end of the year because there's so much that changes in the offseason. But I'm pretty excited for that, and I'll be interested to see what you two give as far as recaps on the year. But aside from that, that's going to be it for today. Just want to thank everyone for the recent support. We've been doing really well, so that's exciting. Make sure you go follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, and whatnot. We're putting out content every day. And big thanks to SeatGeek and V1 Nutra for supporting this episode. You can find their links in the description. Other than that, we will see you guys Wednesday at 6 p.m. for some preview of the Pro Bowl, which is something everyone's looking forward to. And aside from